Okay guys, I thought I'll start with one of the tutorial videos, I guess. This one's more just a replay of me versing a personid 1v1 ladder map on a pretty small, I believe it's 5x5, on a pretty small like rush style map. Gonna like analyze the play, tell you things I did right, tell you things I did wrong. So in this case, CaptainShrapnel, blue Seraphim starting on the top. Things I do first land factory, 2 P-gens, and what I'm doing here is 2 P-gens, 1 mix. And I know I'm going to have to walk forward a bit to get this mass extractor. So as you can see, it goes factory, P-gen, or factory, P-gen, P-gen. Commander walk forward a bit, get the mass extractor, and then he's going to go and capture this mass extractor later for me. Starting build from the factory, I go 3 engineers, 1 scout, 1 tank, because Seraphim don't have labs. Then I go 2 engineers to make up for that extra delay, since a tank does take 13 seconds, which is it's actually like 6 seconds longer than a lab, something around that. So it's important that as Seraphim I make up, my build capacity by getting the extra 2 engineers. So first engineer that comes out gets me, the most important efficient thing for my power, which is my hydro. So he's going to build me my hydro and then my radar. Although it's not very far forward, like it's not towards the middle of the map, like maybe I could have put it in the gap, would have been slightly better, or maybe near this bottom mix. It's sort of secure here because it's close by to my base. It means I can watch the sides for for any run-bys, that kind of stuff. Second engineer comes out, he's going to go and capture mexes for me, so this guy's going to expand. Well, my main comm is going to come down and also assist the factory. I believe he might build the mass extractor along the way if he's within range and my economy allows it, but he's probably just going to come and assist the hydro. Next engineer that comes out, he's going to build this mass extractor, and then I've queued up 3 land factories. This is a bit late, so in this case I'm a bit slow on the land, because if I compare myself to CrazyCossack, he's only got 1 land factory set up. He's got an early engineer reclaiming, engineer going out to build the mexes in that direction, an engineer who's going to build the hydro and an unnecessary amount of adjacent power, and PJ. This is a bad idea. You don't ever do this. You don't want to put factories around the hydro unless it's air factories. Land factories, you want to put them around a mass extractor. So, an example like this is ideal for your land spam, because this will discount the mass use for all the factories around it. So my commander did end up building that mass extractor and is now going to assist the hydro. So here is my harass or anti-harass groups, and the scout and Tham in this case, the Tech 1 tanks, they don't have labs. Something in this case that I should have done better is I should have gone more aggressive in with this group, because as you see my opponent, he's only getting scouts and tanks out now. He doesn't do the lab game. This, had I scouted through, I might have come through here, maybe picked off an engineer that died to the comm, maybe gone around the side more aggressively, been able to pick off an engineer, get into the back, but I was too slow with this. And, I left it behind. Another thing I neglected on this map was a mass reclaim in the middle. I didn't notice these rocks, or a little bit of rocks here. So most of my base reclaim was the small rocks that I found in my base, the trees and rocks here. As you can see with my economy, although I'm sort of lagging behind, 8 mass to 11 in terms of eco to my opponent, the reclaim I'm getting from these rocks is floating the mass I need to build more factories. And I'm also reclaiming enough trees to get the power necessary to, float it. So I go air factory after I build the hydro and the radar. My commander's going to build an extra few P-gens because he builds them in half the time taken. Now it looks like I'm going to power stall. When I finish about 2 of these P-gens, I should run out of that power, assuming I continue to reclaim, just based on how my engineers go. See, this is actually a mistake here. Since I'm building this factory at the same time, I am going to power stall. So I'm going to drop down 80%. But 80%, is not too bad. So when it starts dropping here, and you'll notice, I'm getting bits of reclaim, so it's constantly jumping up and down. 90%, something like that, is fine since I'm actually building more P-gens. And as you can see, my mass tank isn't empty. On the unit side of things, I've expanded my engineer down the side, and he's going to build me 4 land factories here for an attack base to push down, and he's got reclaim here that he can get. Top side here, I'm doing the same thing to protect my reclaim. Over here, my raiding party, which is delayed, finally goes into combat and dies terribly to a large group of Manti. Since I get an earlier air factory, I scout with this air scout. I don't really take much advantage of the intel, which which is a problem. I also make a few interceptors just in case if he's going early bomber, which is what you normally see on certain maps like this. He doesn't go early bomber though, instead he counters with mobile AA. Here's another mistake I make. I split my units too soon. I should have seen, since I had a scout, this force is more likely to attack me, and I should have grouped more units down here first. Instead, I chose to split evenly because since I haven't built forward scouts, my radar range, as this blue ring indicates, is still actually quite limited since I've expanded outside of my radar range. So as you can see here, you know, my power is relatively good, not stalling. My mass, although it's like negative, like it says here 60%, but it doesn't hit that until the storage actually runs out. So as long as I have engineers reclaiming and get the rocks, I should be fine. So I start upgrading a mechs to T2, a bit early, yes, as I'm about to stall, which is bad. This is the first mistake I make. I don't check for +10 mass income, or +8 mass income before I upgrade a mass back to T2. So this is actually a pretty decent mistake, because now I'm only building units at half the speed, less than half the speed I should be. Pause the air factory, and this is the main problem. You have too many engineers building P-gens in a line. This is good if you have less APM. You can just say, I recommend 2 engineers, because that's the equivalent of a com, and just send them on a line to build P-gens. On top of that, I'm playing very defensive now, after like getting pushed in the bottom here, and knowing that my eco isn't exactly going at the best. Reclaim is starting to help me float the mass I need. As you can see, that's reclaim there kicking in. So I get harassed down here. As you can see, his force that is coming is actually larger. At the same time, almost getting pushed on top. For me, it's very defensive at the moment. So I notice that I'm on the defensive. What do I have to think to myself? I now have the disadvantage. My opponent is gating map control, which means he's going to get more mexes, and I have to do something about it. So I wheel my comm down south. He'll provide me the defense to hold the south. Meanwhile, the top is pretty looking pretty bad. So I also need to reinforce more units top. So what I do is I get more engineers on reclaim. And I try to hold on to this factory. The problem here is I bring in crews of small tanks. This is a bad idea. 4 tanks against all this is bad because they're not even going to have good target prioritization. I look like it's shooting from mobile AA, so the DPS isn't going to the mantles. More units coming that way, which is a problem, so I need to wheel more of my units this way because I know my commander can hold down here and he can get this reclaim for me. Now opponent is beating me in mass, 23 to 28. But I've got a T2 mechs now because of the replay. Go to my economy, as you can see, I have a decent amount of power because of the engineers building PJ mechs. I also have a decent amount of mass because of the mass income coming in. And so I'll put another mass extractor on upgrade because, you know, I have about +10 mass income. I'm not really running it. So I can afford to put another mass extractor on upgrade. And I also realize that I'm losing, you know, I'm getting pushed here. This is problematic. I'm going to lose this unless I do something about it. Even my commander down here, he's having trouble holding this. And meanwhile, while I do this, my opponent now has, you know, maybe 70 or 60% of the map at his control. So I have to go for Tech 2 land. I need to be the one to get to Tech 2 land first. I know I have a bit of extra mass in my tank. I get my engineers to assist, get this mechs to Tech 2 really fast. Tech 2 mexes will provide a greater discount to your factories, which is why I upgrade the mass extractor around my land factories first. This will make these a lot cheaper. So these are only costing 3 mass now compared to their 4. Same here with this land factory. These chickens are going to cost 4 normally. With this mass extractor, they're only going to cost 3. Of course, I need chickens out fast, so my engineers, once finished assisting the mass extractor, then assist the factory. Meanwhile, I try to hold the best I can with spam. I know that I have a gap in the middle here, so I have to be careful. So I have to place units there. My commander needs to get me more mass, so he's reclaiming down here to float me the mass. Like, as you can see, like, my mass isn't positive up here. It's like -19, -9, -19. With that reclaim, I will be gone. The extra power from these P-gens has also allowed me to upgrade my radar to Tech 2. Because it's also next to the Hydra, it means instead of costing me 250 power, it's only costing me 218. So Tech 2 radar, as you can see, now gives me, you know, vision of pretty much 50% of the map. As you can see from my intel, you know, I've actually brought out a pretty decent amount of spam. My economy is sitting perfect, pretty much. Like, it's just about to run out, but it's not. So I'm running at 100% doing this. This is 100% economy, and as you can see with my power, it's not really a huge amount because I'm using it. Another mistake I make is I sort of neglect air a lot. My air factory is just building more engineers for reclaim. So I've actually given up air. Had my opponent built bombers, I would have had some issues. When I see a structure like this, I already know it's probably a point defense. This is most likely a forward radar, and of course the mechs, some tanks there. Little defense force here, the mobility will eventually win the day, most likely. Now this force here probably should have attacked slightly sooner, but as you can see if I go to the observers, my opponent's already seen it coming and they've sent me. The key goal is to get rid of this point defense. As long as the mobility can do that, like I can, relatively do run-bys later in. Now I know my enemy force is bigger, like I know it's larger and I can see the units coming to me, so I need to group up this way. I've also got T2 chickens now coming out, so I actually redirect them. I need to hold here because this is a huge amount of spam coming. Meanwhile, the bottom is relatively safe, so I also start upgrading the second land factory. My commander rebuilds to Tech 2 here, so I can get Tech 2 chickens down the bottom. In my base, as you can see on the side here, I start upgrading another mass extractor, which is just a random mass extractor now, because at this point, I don't have any other adjacent mass extractors. I'm actually upgrading two at the same time here. My opponent is doing one mistake, which is he's pressing aggressively, but he's not raiding, he's not pushing further in. So I can come from behind with a chicken and a few tanks, hold from the front with a chicken and a few tanks, and this reclaim is all mine. If I can hold this, that mass there, this mass here is enough to get a T2 mix. That is enough right there to get a Tech 2 mix, if I choose to. Bottom here, enemy's not doing much, I'm building up chickens now, so this will be my counter-attack. So my Tech 2 land gives me the advantage. I've got engineers on reclaim. I try to bring engineers further up to get the reclaim. My opponent now knows that I have Tech 2, so I believe at some stage, yeah, so he's already rushed his Tech 2 upgrade. He's got his commander and a whole bunch of Tech 2 engineers assisting along with the PJ he's making. His economy is actually running quite well. The only problem is his neglected things as well, such as the mass in the middle. Most of his engineers are just reclaiming stuff in space. If you compare reclaim, for example, he's sitting on 2,800 mass reclaimed and 7,300 power. I'm sitting on 7,000 mass reclaimed and 21,000 power. That's an extra 5,000 mass. That is actually a lot of mass. When you think about it, to get a Tech 1 mass extractor with Tech 2, it only takes 900. And I have 5,000 mass reclaimed because he's been attacking. Enemy, this is, I'd say it was a good thing by my opponent to do a run by. Only problem is I'm able to flex my units out. So I got my 3 T1 factories for land spam, but it's a relatively small map. I got one down here for land spam at the bottom of chickens. Now what I do is, why bother about this attack base when I can just go around it? So what I do is, I curve around it, and I decide if I can push through here, I can harass some mixes. At the same time, I do it on the top as well, the units die, because his rhinos start coming around. I have a decent number of chickens now, and if we go into like the observer view, compared to my opponent, who's only got maybe 5 rhinos, I've got easily 7, 8, 9 chickens, which is already going to be, like, 1 rhino is going to lose to a chicken. He's only got 5, I've got 9, I've got 2 factories producing. On top of that, my eco at this point is sort of okay, it's just not enough reclaim because all my engineers are going to die at the moment. Power surplus of 200 is fine. As you can see, when I start getting mass, the power starts sort of getting closer. So my opponent realizes at this stage that this raid has gotten through. This point defense he tries to build is too late. Engineers get through. I've slowed it down because my opponent's about to give up at this point because he knows it's done. So there goes the bomb explosion. So as you can see, these tanks are going to get through, kill engineers, harass some mexes, kill more reclaiming engineers. This mech will probably get done in time to stop these. But he knows from here that he can no longer stop me. With these chickens now marching, this is enough to pretty much tear through his main base. Another mistake I probably made was my commander being this far forward. And of course the next mechs I upgrade is down here, which is next to 2 factories. If you have Tech 2 land factories, they should be next to Tech 2 mexes, preferably. So, by the end of this game, which took 13 minutes, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Tech 2 mass extractors. And with 6 Tech 2 mass extractors, I am building from 2 land factories, one of which is being assisted, building interceptors, and building T1 land spam from 4 land factories. Meanwhile, I'm mostly getting reclaim, and this here, once the engineers get up here, well, the rhinos just killed them. But once the engineers get up here, this here is huge. This is why my opponent knows he's lost. He's given me way too much mass on my doorstep. Which is why you have to be careful when you're attacking your opponent. If you're just going to attack to kill his units, you're going to end up like this. You're going to end up giving your opponent enough mass to get 3 or 4 Tech 2 mexes right there. And you don't want to do that. Meanwhile, when you see me go on the offensive, what I do is I don't go up the front. I don't go and fight this. I could have destroyed this Tech 1 PD. I could have destroyed the PD, the radar, the mechs. My commander was here. I had Tech 2 units. I had Tech 1 tanks, Mobilati. Why bother when I can skirt around it and raid into the back of his base, kill his engineers, kill his mass? That's actually valuable. He does get that point defense up in time. All those engineers would probably die, but at least he'll protect his base from the tanks. His reclaim is left behind as well. That's also key. You notice like all the rocks in my base area are all gone because it's important to get those rocks. Even the rocks here, my engineers, my commander got them all. Trees as well. A lot of mass was neglected in the middle. A few bits here. I should have been more proactive with engineers. That's probably something I should have done better. But just to give you an idea of a small 5x5 Tech 1 land spam map. Although I have, you know, 5 or 6 Tech 2 mass extractors, I'm only running 2 land factories. One being assisted, of course. Having these 5 engineers assist is a big difference. And having that extra power grid, like having this extra T1 power I built with my engineers, is what's floating me that extra power besides the tree reclaim. And of course the main thing to stress is you want to get like this front mass, because this stuff, you get this early, this is the extra boost you have. And like you don't want to do this, you most definitely don't want to leave land spam on your opponent's doorstep. Well, I hope you found this sort of commentary / analysis useful. Just as a sort of extra FYI, there were no upgrades on my commander. I didn't see the point when I had enough spam to sort of hold my opponent back. Well, I hope you found this useful. Keep in mind that when you are on the defensive, it's up to you to be assertive. It's up to you to go to Tech 2 first. You have to put in the effort to push back here, do raids and stuff, because otherwise your opponent's just going to sit there comfortably. He's going to eco and tech, and then he's eventually going to beat you. In the end, last few words I'd like to leave is just always reclaim. Be careful where your tanks die. No point dying over nothing, especially near your opponent's base where he can just reclaim. Alright, hope you guys found this useful. Catch you guys later.